an amazing event with HR professionals who will share actually their deep insights and their enormous expertise about the recruitment process so that you could understand how it works and how is prioritized, like how your CVs are prioritized during the recruitment process and how to stand out better. So please ask your questions. Today we will start with the questions that were already asked in the registration form, and during the event you will also have an opportunity to submit your questions online, and they will be answered closer to the end. So why we are here? I know that here we have not only job seekers, but also a lot of HR and career professionals. So for you, it is a chance to exchange ideas and best practices, improve candidate experience, and just give back to the community. And of course, for job seekers and probably not currently job seekers, but in the future, any of us can be in a situation of looking for a job. So it's your chance to ask recruiters any questions you would like to know answers for. Gain insider tips and understand better employer expectations. So hopefully it will help you find your next job easier. So without further ado, let's start our event. Today we will have the panel discussion with 5 amazing experts. And let me invite them all to the stage. Woo!
Thank you for the introduction, and I will start with introduction of myself. My name is Lumi. Welcome all. I'm a decade, already over a decade in the recruitment from technical productive side, and last 2 years more on the people side. So have been hiring pretty much a lot of different things, have heard a lot of stories, and today I have an honor to facilitate these beautiful experts. And next one is
Hey, yeah, I'm Leo. I mean, I'm sure you've all read this. I've been doing recruitment for about 10 years. And one of my key roles at work is to find, as I put, strangers on the internet. You know, which is what a lot of recruiters do. We do a lot of sourcing, and so we can, I'm sure we can talk about that.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm head of people operations at Talentador, and I represent HR software company. You might have lots of questions around that, so also we can answer today how these things work. My focus is on attracting, engaging, and retaining talents who resonate with our culture, product, and vision, bringing human touch back to recruitment. And I'm really passionate about helping job seekers, so it's really a big pleasure to be here today and engage in meaningful conversations.
Hi, everybody. I was told that we're running late, so I'll just make it very fast. I'm Ash. I am in talent acquisition. I work for ReOrbit, and really happy to be here and address all your questions and queries and have a good time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gianluca. I'll also keep it short. I'm a career coach. I work at a competence center for educated immigrants. I've been there for 2.5 years, and I worked in tech recruitment before a few years ago. I'm happy to be here, and welcome so far.
And we lost the signal. So let's get cozy. Let's sit down. We actually have only two microphones here today because we are recording it as well. So you can also use it and have in the videos recording after. First of all, thank you all for submitting your questions, your requests before. We have recorded all of them. Today, unfortunately, we don't have time to cover all of them, but we will try our best. And to start with, how many of you have participated in similar event a year ago? Okay, we have few returnees. Good. The biggest fear has been that the questions will change, that we will not cover, or we will have to cover the same questions, but it seems to be that it doesn't matter how much we're speaking about how to find the job, what to do, how is the market. The questions are still appear. They're same but different at the same time. And our experts will try to uncover it today. You guys ready? You're prepared? You know all the answers?
Let's try.
Maybe?
We'll try, yeah.
Okay, are we sure that we are also not looking for a job tomorrow? No. Starting on the positive note, that's what we love. British humor, sometimes on the dark side. Okay, well, we decided to separate it in two blocks here. So the first one is always about how to get noticed. As you might heard that sometimes one application might receive about 300 to 400 applicants. Have you received anything? What would be your highest number that for one application?
500. 500.
Here you go. So let's start with the number one. There is a myth that recruiters spend about 10 seconds on screening CVs.
Yeah, I mean, we spend 10 seconds on the initial screen. My process, at least, is to decide whether to move that CV to a shortlist, where I'll take a longer look at the CV, or to reject that CV. Do you want me to go into sort of how I do that? So yeah. So I mean, like the way that I do that is I know that for every job that I have, there are certain red lines. There are certain things that if, like, say for example, like if there's a location requirement or if there's a language requirement, those are certain red lines. And if a candidate doesn't meet that, it doesn't matter kind of what they've done. If they don't meet basic requirements, we can't move forwards. And so that is sometimes a really, sadly, quite a quick way that we can go through CVs and say, well, for example, like, if the role requires fluent Finnish and you don't have that on your CV, or there's no indication that you would speak fluent Finnish, we can't move forwards.
Yeah, and I was thinking I could just share my own experience. So a year ago, we were rolling out 7 job ads, and I'm a foreigner myself, so I do not want to mislead anybody, if, for example, we really need Finnish language. So in our job ads, you can see it at the header, in the requirements, and then again in the application form. And then, there are all these like red flags that kind of, hey, sorry, we need this. But people still keep applying, and I was like, I'm desperate. Like, what do? I don't want to mislead anybody, but, they are still coming. And what I want to share is that, unfortunately, sometimes there are requirements which must be met for business needs. And of course, if those are not met, you cannot go forward. But then I also have this positive experience in our company where we have had roles where we think we need Finnish language, but then once we meet specific talent that we did not imagine that we would find and who has many other great skills, it can still be possible. But you never know which is the case. And I in general really recommend to respect the requirements. And, we are also desperate sometimes, but also we know that job searchers are desperate. And, there are two sides of the coin, and it's also not easy for the recruiters.
Go ahead.
Can I?
Do you have something?
Yeah, I think because you said the 10-second scan for CV, if somebody it's the same with Leo when we shortlist somebody before we take a longer look. I think the first things that stick out, to be honest, out of 500, most of them do not meet what we are looking at their random applications, quite with due respect, but we understand. But I think what really works is at least 3 to 4 key factors that we're looking in the job aligns exactly with what the CV or what the profile has to provide. That itself is the first scan, which is a green signal, and that goes to the review, and then we're like, okay, let's read further and let's see what is ahead. But if there is nothing aligned, somebody might have 10, 20 years of experience, but if it is not aligning with what we are looking for, it would be an immediate reject. So yeah.
Gianluca, if I may ask you, you're working with job seekers on daily basis.
Yeah.
What do you see? Which questions are coming to you with? What are their complaints?
You mean like?
To the CV, cover letter, their LinkedIn profiles?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, there is always like questions about what is right first, question that recruiters don't pay too much attention. Of course, there is the 10 seconds. And one thing that comes across very often is that most people, above all people who have a lot of experience, they want to write everything in the CV because they feel that everything is needed. And then if they don't write everything, then the recruiter cannot understand what I've done, which is always a misconception. because most likely it doesn't matter what you did then 15 years ago. It's more like, can you do the job now? And another thing that I would like to emphasize is always to make it easy to read. If there is not too much time to go through a CV, make sure it's very easy to skim through, it's very easy to read, and it's relevant. And also pay attention to the basic requirements. But there are always a lot of questions and concerns about this from clients. But I think we will also cover them during the...
And actually about basic requirements, how much do you pay attention to CV or to cover letter or to the LinkedIn? What is the most important?
I focus, well, it's quite subjective at times, depends on the seniority of the role and stuff, but I do emphasize on both LinkedIn as well as the CV. CV, because CV is a clear reflection of what has been going on. But a lot of times, what I have noticed out of recruiting for so many years is that the people are not that expressive in terms of what they have been doing in the CV. They might just write their job descriptions, but LinkedIn reflects a lot more engagement and activity in terms of the person's expertise and skill set, maybe participating in, some kind of events or, taking part in competitions. With that also highly reflect the skills and the credibility of a candidate. But again, it differs on role to role. But I feel that CV, of course, is the epitome of everything. It's the most primary thing. But after that, I think LinkedIn is I would say like a bonus, an additional thing. If somebody has a good LinkedIn, it just adds on to it. So yeah, and I read cover letters for one reason. When I used to apply jobs, I used to put so much effort on cover letters, which is why I do read it, because I know the other person has put a lot of effort. But on a realistic note, when we do not have time and when we have so many applications, CV and LinkedIn are like the most convenient way. Yeah.
I mean, my current company, I think for most roles, we don't actually even let you submit a cover letter because, I mean, for a lot of our roles, they don't make sense. So for me, at least, the CV is the key thing. Now, if someone wants to submit a cover letter, yeah, I'm going to read it because you put effort into it. But essentially, if the CV isn't a match, there's no reason for me to then go and try and find extra information on LinkedIn or anything else. I kind of need to see the basic stuff is there first, and then I can take that longer look.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add a few things as well. So we also don't ask for cover letters. We ask for a few specific questions that are relevant for the role, including these qualifying questions. And one tip is don't lie on qualifying questions. That's not a good way to get through. We do see that happening, especially with language requirements. But then one red flag that typically also doesn't pass my 10-second scan is that some applicants still don't open up what they did in their jobs. I know it sounds maybe surprising to some ears, but it is still relatively common. So I really would suggest to add there an action verb, for example, improved what and what was the impact. So really showing what you did, not necessarily everything that were your responsibilities, but what was the impact you made. And that typically will get you further. And if you have transferable skills, in your opinion, just brainstorm with ChatGPT how to show those transferable skills in your CV. So it sounds right to recruiters here.
Can I add something very relevant that you said? I generally tell people to, if possible, try to avoid words like contributed and things like that, because it becomes very vague and hard for the company to understand what exactly was your contribution. So if some big project was happening and you were a part of it, it's best to write what the person actually did. That gives a clear reflection of the work that was done and the impact it has created, rather than putting something like, contributed, was part of. It's like, okay, what was happening? So yeah, I think, that's so good point.
Yeah, I think we also touched now the point, and we will start with you, Gianluca, as well. ChatGPT, AI, our favorite topic, right? Your recommendations on what to use, how to use, is it absolute no for you, or what you're actually looking for, or what you're advising?
Yeah, I always advise to use AI tools as assistant. for brainstorming ideas. I've used them also to check my cover letter, comparing with the job ad, for example. And I use ChatGPT and I get very good advice in that specific case when I apply for a job. I forgot what I wanted to say.
While we have the loading session here, we remind you that we're keeping
yes,
things on the
yes.
side.
Sorry, that we did a recruitment recently. It was an anonymous recruiter, which was very interesting. And we didn't ask for a cover letter, but we had basically a box where people could freely write. So for most people, there was a cover letter, and then we had open-ended questions. And we could spot, like in 2 seconds, people use AI to answer those questions. And for me, it was a big no. Like, I don't care if the answer is perfect. I don't want a perfect answer. I want an honest answer. I want to know what's your point of view. And if you just give me copy-pasted content from ChatGPT, then I don't care personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, in a way, I think there's two parts to that. I mean, I agree. Like, essentially, I don't care if you use AI as long as the stuff's accurate. I think if you're being asked for your actual opinion on something, I think you kind of need to write that yourself, because like if you're being asked, we want to know. I mean, I've had job seekers coming to me and saying, like, what if I create my CV using AI? Is that a problem? And personally, I couldn't care less how you create your CV, how you get your cover letter, as long as the information is accurate. I really don't care. Now, there are recruiters out there are hiring managers out there who are apparently allergic to this stuff. I don't understand why. They're wrong, in my opinion. But, I think, like, if you're going to use AI, check the output. Please, just like, if you're going to use it to, to write a cover letter, read it. Just make sure that it's actually saying what you want it to say. Because, AI does hallucinate, and you don't want to get halfway through a recruitment process and find that it made up experience that you actually don't have, and then kind of, burn out in a ball of fire halfway through. It's not good for anyone, really.
Then the flipping the coin, right? Nowadays, it's not us who is looking through the CVs, it's AI. How many people actually believe that they got rejected by the ATS or AI system at least once? Thank you so much. First of all, I will start that in EU, there is a law about the protection of AI usage. There is no system is allowed to make the final decision. There is always a human behind. None of AI, none of ATS systems has ever rejected you. There is always a person behind. Opening up, what is the ATS system? Application tracking system. It's pretty much the information, or like where we're storing your personal information. It is the database. There is a person behind who is storing or moving it around, so the team or the hiring managers can see information about you and applications. But now, tricky question for you recruiters, and those who are talking to recruiters often, how much do you use AI, and where and how?
I mean, when it comes to assessing candidates, I don't, because it's not very good in my experience. You can get various systems that will rank CVs according to the job description. And I tested this, and I uploaded the job description as the CV, and it gave me a perfect mark, which, is clearly, like, if it thinks that the job description on its own is good for the role, it clearly knows nothing. I use AI in various forms for example, like drafting outreach to people. I'll try and like generate ideas, but I'm not going to copy paste straight from there. Actually, most of my stuff's just generating stuff, but I don't use it at all in the screening process or the application process or anything like that. I think, to your point about people thinking that ATSs are rejecting, I think there absolutely are recruiters out there who will see, for example, an ATS, saying, oh, this candidate's not relevant, and then just blindly trust it and reject based on that. Now, again, that's not AI rejecting you. That's someone not doing their job.
I just want to add, so I mean, it is a fact, that ATSs are developing all kinds of solutions to help recruiters to get quicker through the screening. It's a fact, and obviously the adoption is slow in my opinion, because we are creatures of habit, and change is hard. But like, I mean, if it works, and we are also, for example, developing solutions to help recruiters. So how it works typically is that the ATS will be clustering people in some sort of groups and kind of indicating how big of a match it will be. And sure, there are ATSs that do it better and worse. But ultimately, I know that some customers who get, for example, really large volumes of applicants, they simply don't have capacity to go, for example, through 1,500. And they simply want to start somewhere. They don't want to lose the best candidates by taking super long time until they get through everything. So they might use, these solutions that help you to focus on the better candidates. And the second use case is looking into talent pools. So once you have existing talents already that you have been in touch, once you look for specific skills, that is also where AI might come and help recruiters. For better or worse, all of it is in experimental stage right now.
I think, I feel, of course, it doesn't make sense not to say don't use AI in this time when AI is like everywhere. I think that just doesn't make sense at all. And we know that when we are applying for jobs, there are so many jobs, and if we have a tool that can make things easier for us, why not use it? Are we doing something wrong? No. But I think do not blindly use AI or ChatGPT like bread and butter. I think it should be like a tool that can improve your CV. If you are somebody who writes, really long, points, and this, okay, now a CV goes through 10 seconds, use it to make your points maybe concrete so that, it's like it exactly answers what we are looking for. Using it for things that can make your CV more concrete, more crisp, more grabs the attention of what a recruiter is looking for, what a company is looking for, great. But using it blindly for every application, I think it comes out. And to be honest, as recruiters, because we do this on a regular basis, it's very easy for us to distinguish. And even if you made a very bang on CV, like everything on AI and stuff, and you come for the call, it's easy for us to know that it was actually AI who was doing it. So why to do that? Rather use it, make it a good substance, and then, go for the applications.
I think, especially for job seekers, I think one of the really important things about AI in recruitment is that it does require consent. Like, companies are not allowed to just take your CV and put it into ChatGPT. They have to get your explicit consent from this. And, part of the reason I think that, let's say some organizations are not using AI is because they're not comfortable doing that, or that they're not able to get the consent, and then there are other people in recruitment out there who have a more flexible approach to this, let's say. But the bottom line is that companies do need to get your consent to start using essentially AI in recruitment.
Yeah, just wanted to add talking of the ATS. Forgot to mention in the presentation that I also have a podcast with a couple of colleagues called the Careercast, and the latest episode we did was with an account executive that works for the most used ATS company in Finland. So we went through all of these matters, and also just a recommendation: don't believe everything you read on LinkedIn about the ATS. I know Leo is very passionate. I see all these comments when there are fake news about ATS systems. And also, for example, there are a lot of them, and a lot of them are also used in Finland. They might have more or less AI features. But for example, I visited the website of another company, and there you could see all the features, all the AI features, everything that the ATS can do. So also, if you wonder about how an ATS work, at least on some website, you can find all the features and understand better. Or also ask questions to recruiters, for example.
Thank you all. And actually, as a side note, you see here 5 different representatives. We might teach you also different things. So we're not going to give you a magic pill that will work in every process, so it's more generic. And talking about that, we do have quite a lot of job seekers who have extensive background, but outside of Finland. There has been mentioned already transferable skills. But do you have any advice on how to crack the Finnish market? And we can also touch the hidden Finnish job market that a lot of people talking about. Who wants to start?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, a lot of the people that I talk with are not from Finland. They're from, I mean, all over the globe. I think where we see success, let's say, is where people are really specific about what they've done. And actually, Eliza mentioned a really important word earlier, impact. And what we mean by this is not sort of like, what have you done, but like, what was the actual result of it? And I see people who say, oh, I wrote this code. And you go, okay, great. What happened? And I have another person say, oh, I wrote this code and actually it made the process for users to sign up 50% faster. Now that's the thing that's going to get a hiring manager, interested. And so I think Finland is really quite. I think in Finland, like, we're really quite open to people being just super direct, kind of skipping all of the waffle, the sort of description of what you're doing, just really focusing on the literal impact that you had, which, and especially impact that is relevant to the job description. So if they're saying, hey, you're going to be working on UI that is, going to help people sign up. I'm just going to keep using this example. Like, talk about all the stuff you've done around that. If you're a recruiter and they say, we want you to, we like, this is a fast-paced environment. Talk about how many jobs you work on in parallel. Talk about your close rate. Talk about how fast you close jobs. But talk about, but in general, talk about stuff that you've actually done and the results of what you've done.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What was that was about? Sorry, it's Friday afternoon. Never again on a Friday afternoon. Yeah, just a few things. Small tips could be, for example, check job titles. Sometimes I see a lot like job seekers who have worked in similar roles abroad with a different job title. See if the same job exists here and if it has the same job titles. Make sure that you say in your CV that you are in Finland, that you can work in Finland. Another small tip could be, for example, to write, if it's a company that is not known in Finland that you work for abroad, make sure that you explain, for example, in a couple of lines, what's that company about, what's the industry, and also again the impact that you've done there. These are small things that could make a difference. But in general, of course, of course, there is the fear maybe for some employers that, like, if they hire someone who has never worked in Finland, do they understand the culture? Do they understand what it means to be in Finland? So of course, if you have anything to prove, for example, with volunteering, for example, if you've done an internship, if you have gone to integration training, those are all things that could give inputs to the employer that actually how things work here, which might be one of the fears maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to add to that. As somebody who also had to learn how to break into the Finnish market, what I notice is, first of all, most of the time, the applications that happen, the CVs are in the format of how it was happening in the home country. But every country has different way of evaluating profiles. So if we do not know how to evaluate, at least what I did was going to LinkedIn and looking into the profiles of people for the job that I was applying into and trying to see what they were writing so that I could replicate that into my experiences added on my CV. So that means I may not speak the exact language, but I am there to tell you that I understand what you or how you are trying to evaluate me. So that one thing that was really helpful. And second, what you mentioned is that some way of showing that you are actually also eager from your end to, this is where I say LinkedIn also come in, where you are participating or you're curious, you're keen, because let's be honest, it's not like we have 10 applications. It's like we have 200, 300 applications. So if you have to stand out or if you feel that there is, and when we are hiring people, it's not like it's a perfect candidate. It's somebody who has the approach, the attitude, the motivation, and willing to adapt. And then we believe this person will learn in the process. But those are the other factors that cannot be trained in the job. So if you have that thing from your end where we can see that you have done something where you have made an attempt to integrate or, you are keen on understanding how it works, that also helps us. And for people who do not have experience in the Finnish market yet and applying for a fresh job, I feel just writing, we all know that we have a lot of people who have relocated and looking for a job. Just writing 1 or 2 lines as a summary is just a quick reflection of what you're bringing to the table, because you are not sharing your latest job experience in the sense what you were doing like 2 months back. It might be you've moved here 6 months before, or a year before, or 2 years before, and you've been job hunting. So giving like a 2-3 lines that this is this many years of experience, this specialization, dot blah 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 skill set. Just 3-4 lines. Like, okay, this is what the person has. Let's see what the CV has to say. So yeah. You were smiling. I don't know if you're happy.
No, I'm happy because now people, you will have to work a little bit. Sorry, we're not relaxing, even though it's Friday afternoon. Could you please change the slide? So now you guys can relax for the next 5 minutes. So now what Ash has been telling, grab someone next to you who you don't know, that it will make it even more interesting. Open your CV or your LinkedIn. What is the easiest access you have? And look at it. What do you have there? Is it the representation that I'm a job seeker? Take it off. Think what you can add right now, right here, from what you have heard. Or show it to your neighbor who's sitting right next to you and ask, looking at this, who am I? This first line on your LinkedIn or on your CV. Do it now. Come on.
Oh,
You've been told.
Lumi says so.
Lumi says.
Yeah, no more questions.
And in meanwhile, there is a Mentimeter. So if you're not answering some of your questions, you're able to submit more. We will have some time, but please not only submit them, also like them, because we will have time only for about 10 questions. So more likes, more questions will go on top. Okay, we will continue. While you had quite active discussions there, it's really nice to see that we actually had a quite heated discussion here. We wanted to start with another topic, but as we already started to talk here about the calling or not calling. So how many of you actually do call to the recruiter when you apply? Okay, quite a few. Do you call if it actually says, like, if you have any questions, call, or you just call if you see the number? Okay, I will ask then the recruiters here. So tell me your opinion.
To me, like if someone calls me about a role, it doesn't, like it's not going to help you and it's not going to help you. It has absolutely zero effect for me. I think if someone's going to call me, it needs to be, it should be a question that isn't answered by the job description, and it should be something that's actually going to help you apply. I have people calling saying, oh, I'd like a quick call about how my skills align with the role. And I turn to people and I say, well, that's the job interview. I haven't decided whether we're moving forwards yet. But if someone will say, hey, like, I don't see a salary range on the role, can you let me know what it is? Great question. That's actually quite useful, because, you need to know if the job actually makes sense for you financially. I know that there are some recruiters out there absolutely love it. And I think especially for sales roles, a lot of recruiters want to see that a candidate, can essentially treat the recruitment process like a sales process, which means calling up and identifying stakeholders and sort of getting an agenda for the meeting. But I know there are also some recruiters, and I think we might hear from one of them, who really don't like people calling. And if all of this sounds wildly confusing and really contradictory, it's because it is. I think a lot of it comes down to like the personal preference of a recruiter. Like, in a way, it makes no difference to me, but for some people, it does make an absolutely massive difference.
Yeah. I've had a person call me who applied in the morning and then called me in the evening. I called to see if you received my application. That doesn't help. So and for me, that's like yes, I did. You received an email that we received your application and we'll get back to you. So I think that's where it kind of becomes a little, I think that can be avoided. As Leo said, calling when the number is given, precisely we understand if you are calling, you have the maturity that and the understanding that you are calling because you have a valid question related to the role or related to something of yours which you feel can help us in the application process. But calling for, if you feel that, and a lot of people call because they want to be noticed. And I understand that because it's like you're applying, you're not getting anywhere. I've been applying in a lot of places. I'm not hearing anything. Let me call. This person will notice I call, will go through my CV. But I'm sorry to say that doesn't happen because scanning CVs or going through profiles is a different story, and phone call is a different story. If you have given a call and you have not asked a relevant question, that does not help in any way. So I would say, please avoid calling if you do not have any relevant question. Also, because when you're calling, you never know, the candidate might be in the midst of scanning 300 CVs, and it can be like, was this call even necessary? I could have scanned maybe 2 more CVs, and it could be like that. So if it's not, but we are happy to take all, because that's our job. We are happy to take any relevant questions you have regarding salary. If it's like you are based in another country, but you want to know if there's possibility of relocation and stuff like that, absolutely. But have you seen my CV? Have you seen my application? When can I hear back from you? I think that's something that may not give you a productive result, I would say, like, yeah.
I love this topic because there are so much contraposing opinions. Where I work, we have an entire workshop on calling recruiters before applying. But of course, the main idea is not to ask useless questions, as it was said, not to ask questions that are already in the job ad. And from job seekers, I've heard different stories. I remember a client of mine who called me for applying, and they basically spoke for 1 hour. So that turned into an interview. Is that something that happens always? No, absolutely not. Maybe not even in the 5% of cases, but it can happen. So my rule of thumb is to suggest to clients, like, if you have something valuable to ask that can help you in your application or is needed for you to decide whether to apply, then ask. Maybe you will find out something and you will be like, I actually don't like this job and I want to do it, and you will save time. So yeah.
Yeah, to add to that as well, like I would say under the same basket would go using LinkedIn to reach out to someone in a way that, I do have a job for me, please don't do that. It's like equal to the same as just calling recruiter, hey, you're a recruiter, I found your phone number, hello. Like if you do have something valuable to add, please do value the time of another person. We will actually talk also maybe about the cultural side as well of Finland. I would say for me personally, personal number, no go. WhatsApp or any other, please don't. We also have a life and life after work, but maybe my colleagues have any other opinions. How do the candidates usually reach out to you, or how do they submit CVs, any channels or suggestions?
I mean, I have a lot of people who reach out to me on LinkedIn and they'll say, hey, do you have any jobs? And I'll say, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, here's our careers page. I mean, I think the important thing to remember about, especially like in-house recruiters, and what I mean by that is that's a recruiter who works for a specific company. Our job is to find, let me get this right, our job is to find candidates for roles, not roles for candidates. And so when someone calls me out of the blue or sends me their CV via LinkedIn, it's like, do you have anything? I'm like, well, I can't help you. You know, you need to give me way more than this. You need to tell me actually, for example, what sort of roles you're interested in, that sort of thing. And then I can narrow it down. I have a list of blocked numbers on my phone from people who've somehow found my personal number and tried to call me about jobs. I just don't answer. I mean, I don't answer my phone in general. But you know, I mean, I'm at my work one, yeah, sure. But you know, I think like calling like a personal number is, especially in Finland, it's definitely a move.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the colleagues here. Ask only if you have relevant questions to ask. We actually don't show numbers on our job ads. We ask to send emails, ask questions if you have. We will be happy to respond. And if there is need for conversation, we will suggest one. But yeah, it's a really interesting topic and that a little bit touches different team, kind of should you try to reach companies if there are no open roles? And I, as a foreigner myself, I understand how big is the competition. And I do know that it is quite frustrating. You know, you have a career page, you have open positions, and that's what we're looking for. So it's frustrating kind of to get all these other things in other channels. At the same time, I also believe that if there really is a dream company of yours, you know, then go for it. Show that you are interested, show how you are interested, but make yourself stand out. And you know, it might not be the first time you succeed, but I really sincerely believe that as foreigners, you know, you kind of need to penetrate that hidden job market also in that way. And that's how I myself have found my jobs here in Finland.
Yeah, I want to add to that. Same, I would say reach out on LinkedIn. You may not get a response once because I have the same story. Hidden job market and you know, trying to understand what works. And it may not be that useful reaching out to very massive companies where they have like a lot of roles published. But if you have some as dream company or any other company that does not have any role, you have to do your research. If you do the research and you found a company which might have a relevant position, or you know, you don't see that those kind of people in the company of your profile, reach out. I am a recruiter. I do get, like everybody, do get a lot of you know, messages. I may not be able to respond, but I don't look down upon them because personally, for me also, LinkedIn messages opened quite a lot of doors for me when I had just moved here 6 years back. And I always tell people, you will get noticed. If you're applying to a job and you know, and you like very desperate, apply and they say, hey, just wanted to say I applied to this role. If it's something very niche, if it's not like any regular role in the market, something like that. But I'm not against the LinkedIn stuff. I may not be able to reply, but why should I say something not to do when I did that myself and it really helped me? I mean, this is what the session is about. So yeah.
Something very short, very short.
Yeah.
Very short. I just think it's super important to be specific.
Yes.
You know, general stuff doesn't get anybody anywhere. So it's always about being very, very specific and really showing then what you are about and what you can bring to the table.
Yeah. You need to be noticed. Like, yeah.
I can see Gianluca's shaking with anticipation for his answer, so I'll let you go first, and then I'll make my point.
Annoying me, I just like that. Yeah.
I see, actually, I have been trying to move us away from the hidden job markets and all of that, but we're still circling here. Let's do it. You want to give some advices? You want to continue? Let's do it.
You want to go first? Yeah, yeah. I mean, what I was going to say is like a real sort of like practical thing. If you're going to reach out to a recruiter to ask for a job, it sounds really simple, but sort of tell them what sort of jobs they're interested in. If someone reaches out to me and says, "Do you have any jobs?" Careers page. Someone says, "Hey, do you have any marketing jobs?" I can say, "Yeah, actually, I'm managing a bunch of these roles. You know, we've got these ones open. We might have something open in this in the future." And so if you can be specific about what you want, it's much easier for us to help you, because it might be that we actually know exactly what you want.
There.
Oh.
Should we?
We will
I will be
keep
very
quiet.
brief.
No, we'll keep quiet. Yeah.
Continue
Yeah.
the recruiter chat. Just a couple of things. What Lumi said about don't reach out with, do you have any job? Not only applies to LinkedIn, but in general, a lot of clients also that go to events, even if they're recruited events, they just go there and ask for jobs. And that doesn't usually work because the answer they get is go on the website and check the jobs, as someone would do on LinkedIn. Second thing is, I have at least 2 cases of clients from last year who find a job reaching out directly to companies. One started with a work tryout, and after the work tryout, they got the permanent contract, and then another one got a fixed term contract, reaching out to an organization. But as said, be specific. Also, I wouldn't reach out to recruiters. I would reach out to maybe hiring managers or to people who would supervise you, people who might need your skills. Because as Leo said, recruiters will recruit when they have open roles. But they might not necessarily know the needs that the hiring manager might have if they are not told.
And I wanted to share one thing. So when I was an exchange student in Canada, it was very common to go for informative interviews, or not even interviews. I don't know what was the official term. And I know this is radical maybe in the environment where we live, right? How would you invite somebody to go for coffee chat? But I actually think that if you really sincerely are interested in that industry, in those roles, why not to ask, hey, would you be open to have a like 15, 20-minute, 30-minute chat online so I can learn more about your job, what you do, you know? And I think this is a really great way to make network. And I actually don't believe that people would say no too often because people want to help each other. And that is something that I personally would do if I would be again looking for a job.
I think personally, Finland is a very network-based market for what I believe. So irrespective of, first of all, irrespective of the person that you're reaching out to has a job or not, build a connection, build a network. You never know, because it's a small market, you never know at what point of life, where, when, how, which kind of door might open for you. There might be like, this profile is something very interesting. We were all thinking of opening a role. Why not have this person join us for an internship? Bam, you've entered the market and then you can navigate. So always network with the right people, build the connections. As they've said, reach out, have coffee, whatever, but do that. And also what you mentioned, recruiters, what we've been discussing, do not, when the culture factor, do not hesitate to reach out to senior leadership in companies. First of all, that doesn't mean the CEO, CEO of a big company may not have the time, but CEO of small companies or startups, reach out. They have the head count, they have the forecast, they know the kind of roles they're going to hire for in this coming year. And there is no harm in being noticed in the eyes of a CEO or a senior leadership. And I always say, send a second follow-up within 1 or 2 weeks. After that, don't bother. If they haven't responded, that means, so they see your message, but if they haven't replied, that means they don't have anything productive for you. But they might have missed. So the second message is like a reminder that, hey, I pinged you. Do not write an essay. They don't have time. Something very short, just so that you noticed. Leave the rest of the talking for the calls and stuff, but send a second follow-up, and after that, just forget it. But yeah.
Pro tips and add-ons. People love speaking about themselves. We also do. So when you do go for coffee, ask another person to tell about themselves. For second coffee, you can ask or tell more about yourself as well. That's how you're building networks and connections. And as we're slowly moving also to the actual interviews as well, question to all of you. Share with us example of the worst interview experience you have ever had. I can share mine. It was in Finland and it was a group interview. It was in Finnish. I think my Finnish level was like, well, it's still somewhere maybe B1, B2, but it was like A1. I was a group of people and we all were answering questions. It was the most embarrassing and probably the most I'm still getting heat waves from that.
So wait, these are interviews where we've been the interviewee. Oh man, so many to choose from. I'm really bad at interviewing. It was probably one where I sat down and the first question I got wasn't tell me about yourself. The guy looked at me and went, other than the salary, what will you cost us? And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So that's the vibe. And so I gave a really sort of combative answer where I basically said, I don't think you've thought this through. I'm going to save you more money than I'll cost you. And walked out, just sort of assuming that I'd burnt every bridge with that company. And 3 days later, they wouldn't stop calling me trying to But I was like, I don't want to. I'm not going to work for a company like that. But it was a really horrible experience.
I don't want to jinx it, but I haven't had a yeah. Yes, so yet, touch wood. Yes, that's all I can say. Yeah, touch wood. But I've not had that much of a bad experience yet. I think God has been kind. But that saying that, I think I should prep now for there will be something. God might be like, you haven't had. I'm going to give you a very bad interview, so it can be like that. But nothing I don't have. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had bad experiences either, but maybe just a funny story. So my colleague, by the time she arrived, they showed the person that they just had hired for the role she had arrived to interview for. that person was interviewed just before her. It was a startup at the time, so things were happening very fast. Good news, she also was hired the same day for a new role that the company invented. That's Talentador 10 years ago.
As the camera is recording, I will skip mine, but I can share in private later on. But switching, I remember the first interview I did as a recruiter where I was shadowing. And basically, I remember my colleague was presenting the company the opportunity and then asking why you're interested. And the person just looked straight into his eyes and was like, you know everything about me. You read my CV. This call is for you to tell me why you want me. And I was like, if this is the job, I quit. Fortunately, it was, but.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that. So with that, we move to one of the most common questions as well about the interviews, the video interview. How many of you have done them? Video interview, when you have to record pre-recorded videos.
That's a lot.
Yeah, pre-recorded, when you have the question 10 times. How many of you like them? Oh, come on. Oh, we at least have few people
Can
who
we
like
clap the hands to those two people?
we can see who have been attending the courses with Gianluca, right? Any tips on how to nail the video interviews or like the pre-recorded video interviews?
I mean, I dislike video, like pre-recorded video interviews with a deep passion. But essentially, if a hiring manager comes to me and says, we're going to do this, I turn around and say, we're not. I just refuse. But I think if you are in a position where you have to do that, I recommend, much like my advice with CVs, just being super direct, being really concise with your answers. You know, if they want to know about an example of, you know, a time we had to overcome a hardship, tell the story. I wouldn't give too much extra. Just focus exactly on what's being asked. Yeah.
Yeah, I think same. I also don't like video interviews. Yes, and it's pretty evident that even if people are giving, they also don't enjoy. So it's like you're doing it out of compulsion, right? Like, okay, I really like the job. It's for asking me to record, so I'll record and I'll give. Yeah. So, but I think it would be a similar story like the CV, I would say, like being very, as you said, direct and just being your authentic self. If you're reading from a slide, we get to know. So I would say don't do that. Just be your authentic self, be your original self, and yeah, and make it short. Yeah.
Yeah, just want to share my experience. I did it as an interview when I applied for my permanent contract last year, and then when we recruited this year, I watched video interviews. It was the first time I did it from the recruiter side. When I did it, of course, I did it in Finnish, and I was there panicking and trying to remember as much as I could. And then I was like, no, that doesn't work. Like I don't have to be perfect. I can make mistakes. They know I'm not that fluent in Finnish. I'm not a native. So I was more focused on just like being myself and relaxing. So that would be one tip. Don't overstress. Don't try to be perfect just because it's a camera. And then also remember there are people looking at you because it might, you know, you're looking at the camera. So you think that like, okay, there's no one looking at me. But then when people look at you, they notice if you're reading everything, if you have very like face expression that tells something about what you're saying. So also maybe pay slight attention to that. I remember a tip from, it was a panel where Lumi was, from I don't remember her name, the person from Staff Point. She was talking about video interview and she loved them. She was giving this tip, I remember, of having like a stuffed animal somewhere to look at. So that would make it easier. No, I didn't try, but I tried to look at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, I really agree with being authentic being the key. I think it's really interesting. We went into the tips, but maybe a little bit returning back to why do we use video interviews in general? I think, you know, if there's so much, I will say dislike, it's also important to a little bit understand that. And in my experiences, we have been using those tools when we have a lot of applicants and we do not have ability to screen all of them through phone calls or video interviews live. So we have two chances. Either we start screening them and it is smaller candidate pool that we're going to look deeper into, or we release these pre-recorded video interviews, which then again give second chance, you know, for larger candidate pool. And in those experiences, we actually ended up hiring some people on some occasions which did not stand out in the same way through CVs. So I believe it kind of expands the horizon. Of course, it also can imply certain biases, especially depending on the role. So you have to be very careful when you do it, but typically there is a good reason why company chooses to do that. I think it's also very common for like sales roles or roles where you actually, it matters how you carry yourself. So if it is there, it's there for a reason, but remember to be authentic and true yourself.
One super practical tip as well from someone who's, one of my older companies used to use them. Please check the background when you're doing the videos. We can't just see you, we can often see what's behind you. Again, the cameras are rolling, so I'm not going to give examples, but I'm happy to talk about it, say after, at the end of the events when they're not, you know. But yeah, check your background.
Also during interviews, please check your backgrounds, you know. Yeah. Yes.
I love Ash is always giving us these bridges to the next topic. Okay, now we're in the tips, how to do that. Any tips for the during the interview? We got the questions about how do I explain career gaps? How do I talk about salary negotiations? Where do we start? Hard topics. Give the tips to our job seekers.
I mean, those are two wildly different topics, career gaps and salary negotiations. I mean, I'll start with salary negotiations, because that's something I'm quite passionate about. I did a podcast with you actually about it.
So go listen to it.
Like and subscribe. No,
Like and subscribe.
But I mean, with salary negotiations, there are, you know, let's say there are changes in the law coming. There's the Pay Transparency Act, which should help a bit. But what I always recommend is that, you know, if someone asks you what your salary range is and it's not posted, I always recommend to actually turn the question back and say, what's your budget? Because there's always a budget. Like, it doesn't matter how big the company is. It could be a 2-person startup. It could be a, you know, 10,000 person company. There's a budget, because if there's no budget, there's no role.
So our next exercise is actually to answer your favorite question. Tell me about yourself. So people, we do have here as well HR experts, recruiters who promise that they're available to answer questions. So can you put your hand up, the one who is ready, available? So you can group around those people as well. So do give each other feedback. So one at a time, give a small presentation, and we have for 10, 15 minutes. How much do we have? Get up and according to the colors. Yes. Perfect. We got the colors coding. You have a color coding. Choose your color. Where do we have a color? Great. Well, I see that people have been enjoying interacting. The good news that we will keep you sitting only for another 15 minutes and we will let you continue networking. So thank you so much for active participation and submitting few questions, and we will go over a few of them. So the top question, sorry, you tried to avoid it, but we're circling back to it. We can still hear people speaking, slowly coming back. Oh, that was a cool one. Okay, so there is a question still.
There's a question.
I'm trying to think how to form it.
Oh.
There is a question. No, we're going back to those who do have the career breaks.
Oh, yeah.
Your advice, how to present the career breaks.
I think we should allow him to speak one
Yes,
first.
let's do it.
Okay, the difficult question. I start, fine. Well, I think it depends a lot. What are we talking about? Because a career break could be 6 months and could be 5 years. So that would also depend. I think nowadays in this market, recruiters are quite aware that career gaps are a thing, whether it's unemployment, whether it's parental leave, whether someone is traveling. My recommendation is always to, well, of course, I tell people to decide whether to write it or not on the CV. I don't think it's mandatory. I think it can help. For example, if there is a gap because you moved country and then you went through the integration training, why not to add it? Then, of course, there are also reasons that people, maybe like personal reason, medical reason that they want to avoid, and that's also okay. If you have done any courses, any training, anything that is relevant to the job, I would encourage you to add it there, even if it's not work experience. Yeah, and I guess that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, career breaks are I say there's a stigma around them. My advice is that you need to be comfortable in explaining kind of whatever reason that you give. And so I've had some people who give really high level reasons and they'll say, oh, I took some time off. And that's absolutely fine. I think the important thing is to be able to, if where possible, say what you've been doing, you know. And I think there's a lot of things that people do that aren't necessarily professional qualifications that are actually really useful. I mean, I've had people who say, actually, I got laid off, for 6 months. I taught myself to paint during that time. And to me, that's really interesting because I could say, actually, here's a job seeker who can clearly learn new skills, who's actually really interested in learning stuff. Sorry. And so if you can be more specific about what you've been doing, even if it is, and I'm not trying to downplay a bit here, but even if it is something like learning to paint, what it's demonstrating is that you can learn something new and that you can apply it. I know, I mean, let's say I've had career breaks and I've been super upfront about why I've had them. And that's what I'm comfortable with. Not everyone is that comfortable. And so I'm not saying, oh, just, say exactly why. But I think if you can find something that you've done, again, I would definitely recommend doing that.
Yes. Also depends why you have the career break. If it's a career break by choice, then of course, be upfront and But if there is a career break because you have been applying for jobs and you haven't got a job, and that's the reason you have like few months or a year or 2 years, I would always suggest upskill yourself during that time so that when you come with the career break and you can say, I've been looking for jobs, but meanwhile, from my side, I have been doing maybe this course or certification or whatever it is. I have been training myself and I have been trying to teach myself skills so that I can continue to be relevant and competent in the market. Because it's anyways very exhausting and taxing to just apply and not get anything. But there are quite a lot of people doing the same. If you are upscaling yourself, if you are doing something, it makes you stand out, and it also shows that you have the eagerness and keenness to really be relevant. It's just that things are not clicking. So fine, let's give it a shot. Let's have a chat and stuff like that. So if it's because you're applying for jobs and you have a career break, it's always good to be active and relevant and bring that out while talking to recruiters. Yeah.
Yeah, and the same goes for volunteering. So if you don't have yet experiences in Finland, or if you have a gap, find a place where you can use your skills as a marketer, as an engineer, as a QA. There are lots of startups, there are lots of NGOs, there are lots of events. There is everything out there. So find a place to use your skills and show that you are willing to contribute, you're willing to develop. It will help you when you come to the interviews and are evaluated for a job.
We have only 10 minutes. So I'm trying to group the questions. Sorry. Very short answers, please. Focus, guys. So the top questions here, picture or no picture? CV, 1 page, 2 pages.
I don't have a picture on my CV, and my CV is 1 page. I think if you can get to 1 page, amazing, but 2 is fine. Picture, I think usually I recommend not, but if it makes you feel more confident about the CV, go for it.
Picture doesn't matter. You can give if you want. If you don't want to give, don't give. That's no point. I mean, that doesn't affect that much, I would say. CV, 1 page is great. If you've worked a lot, then maybe 2, but keeping the points very concrete and crisp really helps, and bullet points can go a long way.
Yes, well, picture doesn't matter as we just discussed, and also LinkedIn typically will have a picture, right? So anyways, we end up in the same place. But when it comes to CVs, the main thing is how scannable and structured it is. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 pages, it's how you have structured it, how easy it is to find the right information for the recruiter when they are screening you.
Yeah, nothing else to add. Maybe that just for like some roles like academia CV can also be longer than 2 pages.
And I'm like now, sorry, I'm having fun with this question. So I do love the question here. If a human makes the final decision and not AI ATS, then why are we encouraged to make our CV so ATS friendly? And there are a few other questions that go, I would say, like hand in hand, and you will understand why. So it's like, if you recommend me to add the buzzwords or something, how do you make sure that I'm not faking my CV? Or another question is also pretty much around these topics as well. If I'm customizing my CV for a specific job, will it not look AI written? So grouping back to this AI, the buzzwords, no? No? Did you get the logic or what?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of adverts on LinkedIn for ATS compliant CVs. I don't know what an ATS compliant CV is. It's my job to evaluate.
Shows this.
Well, yeah, but a human's going to be reading it. Like Lumi was saying, it's one that an ATS can read. I've had Word documents uploaded to ATS. I've had someone who uploaded a CV as a BMP and it was just fine. My advice is to make sure that like a human can actually read the CV because they're the ones actually making the decision. Buzzwords, I mean, you can include them if you want. I know some people like the bold stuff. To me, that it doesn't add value. What I'm going to be doing is reading what you have on there, saying, hey, is this related to the job description? You know, and so what I want to see is impact, not buzzwords, preferably. And there was a third point that I cannot remember.
3 questions.
No, there were pretty much
Oh,
all
yeah.
around,
Okay.
like AIs,
Yeah.
specifically reading CVs for
Mm.
the role.
Okay.
Yeah, so going back to ATSs, so it's not that ATSs make decisions, but they can help to cluster talents or search based on skills, for example, in the talent pool. So simply why? Because, you know, you're increasing the likelihood of matching, even though AI is smart enough actually to recognize, you know, that pears and apples is very similar thing. What else was there? Buzzwords. I don't know who would recommend to include buzzwords, but again, going back to transferable skills, you know, every organization has way they speak about, you know, the domains, you know, that they are operating in. So it is just very human, you know, that also me as a human, if I scan a CV, you know, it's easier for me to comprehend, you know, the things that we already, or the vocabulary that we already actively use. It does not mean that I will not recognize it otherwise, but you know, if you haven't done exactly the same things, I would say don't use buzzwords, but just make sure that you speak about things as it is referred in that industry, in that domain, maybe even in that job ad.
I think there are like all of these worries when the focus should just be like, is my CV easy to read? Can my CV tell like the experience I have? Can my CV tell that I'm a match for this job? Then we shouldn't worry too much about buzzwords and keywords and ATS and AI. Write the CV to make people understand that you can do the job. That's it.
What you said, don't make every point too long. Just to explain what you have done. We leave that for the interview. Try to learn how to make it short and on point and focused.
Yeah, and I want to add one more thing. So it's okay to use AI as an assistant to do sparring, to do brainstorming, to enhance something, to give alternative ideas how to say the same thing in different way. So we are definitely not saying don't use AI because we already understand that AI will be very present in the future work. But the thing is that don't make it look like there is, sorry, how to formulate it, like the gap between who you really are and how you really write and who you really will be when you come to the work cannot be too big from what you submit. And that is what we say, like, don't overdo with AI. I mean, just help AI to help you look more yourself. That is how much it you should use.
One question here. What is your advice for a career switcher who is moving to TA recruitment? Career shifter.
Firstly, I mean, you want to move to TA. Firstly, welcome. Secondly, brace. The market at the moment for TA is quite rough. What you basically need to be able to show, in my opinion, is that you can manage multiple projects simultaneously, that you are able to say no to stakeholders, and that you are happy talking with a lot of different people. And so if you have experience where you can demonstrate this, it doesn't have to be people experience, it might be that you're coming from software, and you say, hey, actually, I've managed these 3 different projects, I had to move something through a process. I mean, that's literally what a TA process is. If you're coming from a technical background, you can say, look, I actually speak the same language as the people I'm going to be recruiting. I'm good at working with these sort of people. And, I think, if you have an example of where you've had to say no to someone before, you've had to sort of disagree with maybe, a more senior stakeholder, I think that's always quite useful. I think at the end of the day as well, you're going to be talking with recruiters. We know this and we have a lot of sympathy. And so when, someone says, hey, this is my experience, we're probably going to be like, yeah, I agree. Like, I've done that before.
I think first thing is, if you want to enter into a TA field, you have to love working with people. You have to love talking to, you have to love or really enjoy talking to people, because that's like a core part of our job, irrespective of how the other person is in terms of the other person may not enjoy talking to you and he's a hiring manager, but you have to fill a role for him. So you have to talk to him no matter what. So you have to learn how to navigate between different personalities when talking to people of, different culture, background, experience, personalities, and so on. And a massive, massive, massive multitasker. Because when we talk, I mean, if I'm talking for 3 hours and then I'm like, and then I remember, oh, there's so much else to do. And then you have to do 3, 4 things simultaneously because we are bringing the people to the company. Because at the end of the day, every TA is the first face of the company. When a company hires or when you are talking to candidates, you're representing the company. The candidate will have an idea about the company through you. So you have to be able to connect with people, talk to people, enjoy, have a certain level of empathy, and and multitask. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is again really important to find a place to use your skills already, even if you don't have your dream job. So volunteer somewhere and start applying those skills today. Just a couple of skills I appreciate about TA professionals. If they are really good at project and timeline management, because it's never easy to keep the timelines, and timelines that are not kept has business impact. Secondly, I have seen that stakeholder management is a skill to be obtained and is very, very appreciated. So start early building your stakeholder management skills. And last but not the least, there was one more thing. Yeah, understanding business context and actually not coming in only as somebody who delivers, but actually coming as somebody who can also challenge, add, bring additional context to help move things in the right direction. I think that is something that can help you stand out in TA.
Not much to add. I mean, I switched my career, was working customer service, and then I switched to talent acquisition. One thing that is very right, like if you can start doing like something related to a job, that helped a lot. I was doing recruitment and customer service before switching. That helped a lot. And be ready to fight with hiring managers. That's something that I didn't take into account before starting a job. When I did.
It's written, that wasn't very data-driven of you. That's a nice t-shirt. But to finalize and let us networking and with the people around, one, short, we are already over time, actionable advice that the job seekers can do leaving this room.
On your CV, focus on impact, results.
Any time to think.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would still say book a coffee chat with somebody you really think they are doing what you would like to be doing one day. And not because you want to get work from them, but just because you sincerely want to know what it is like to work in that industry. How did they succeed? Just generally connecting. And I think that might be an interesting experience. And then you say either it was good or bad idea, but at least you know.
I would say network. if we are looking for jobs in Finland.
You spoke too much.
I spoke too much. If you're looking for jobs in Finland, yes. I would say look for people in the industry that you're targeting to enter and connect with those people on LinkedIn. Try to, come into their notice. And in terms of CV, I would say try to see some sample CVs, how it happens in Finland, and then just see if you can make it short, crisp, and on point. Yeah.
I would say just make sure you have some sort of support. Job search can be very tough, and I see a lot of clients that the more time they spend unemployed, the tougher it gets, and it's completely normal. And above all, in this labor market, it's very easy to feel discouraged. It's very easy to get into negative loop of rejection. So make sure you have some support, friends, communities, talent hub system, any place where you can hang out with people, and realize that you're never alone in this.
Thank you.
Super. At that note, thank you to our experts. Thank you to all of you. And now we have time for networking.